I never imagined that the people I sheltered under my roof for 7 long years would toss me out like yesterday's trash the very moment luck favored them. Yet that's exactly what happened on the day my son and his wife announced they'd won $85 million. Before lunchtime, my belongings were scattered across the lawn, my clothes draped over the mailbox, crystal china smashed on the concrete like fallen ice. And as the neighborhood gathered to witness the spectacle, my daughter-in-law, Belle, stood at the window shouting, "We don't need to play charity for you anymore. Go find a retirement home and rot there." I stood still, dust settling onto my old sweater, listening without flinching. I'd spent years letting their disrespect slide, pretending quieter tolerance meant peace. But that morning, something shifted. While Belle celebrated like the queen of cheap victory, waving the lottery ticket around like a royal decree, I only asked her one quiet question. "Did you even check the name written on the back?" Her grin faltered, just for the tiniest fraction of a second. But that crack was enough. I knew the truth would eventually hit her harder than anything she threw out the window. My name is Lorraine Wexler, 63 years old, widow of almost a decade. After my husband, Alan, passed, the house we built together became my sanctuary, the last place where his memory felt close enough to touch. Then 7 years ago, in the middle of a storm that rattled the windows and split the sky with lightning, my son Ethan and his wife arrived soaked through and desperate. Ethan had lost his job, and Belle was expecting their first child. I didn't ask questions. I simply opened the door and said, "This home will always have space for you." Back then, I believed that unconditional kindness held families together. I didn't realize it can also teach people to take you for granted. This morning, like any other, I was making pancakes for my grandchildren, Lucy and Jacob, when the shriek that would detonate my life ripped through the walls. Belle's voice echoed through the downstairs hallway like an alarm. Within minutes, they were cheering, crying, swearing the universe had finally rewarded them. And from the top of the staircase, I watched as the ticket I bought, the numbers I've played for 20 years, became their golden ticket to greed. Not once did either of them pause to ask whose ticket it was. Not once did they look for my handwriting on the back. Not once did they show a shred of shame. But the storm wasn't done, and neither was I. They thought the money made them untouchable, but they had no idea the real explosion hadn't even begun. The celebration downstairs grew so loud it made the walls vibrate. I stayed halfway down the staircase, hidden behind the banister, watching the two of them hop around like overgrown children who just discovered a candy store. Belle clutched the ticket with shaking hands, kissing it between giggles. Ethan wrapped his arms around her, laughing in shocked disbelief. Meanwhile, I stood with my fingers gripping the stair rail, my heart dropping. Not because of the money, not even because they claimed it, but because the realization hit me clean and cold. Neither of them had even considered I might be the one who bought it. Yesterday evening, while they argued about bills and promotions and who was more tired, I walked calmly to the corner mart, using the same numbers I'd used since my 20s. Birthdays, anniversaries, a little thread tying memories of Alan and the kids together. I signed the back immediately, as my husband always insisted, and tucked the ticket and receipt beneath my keys. So when I saw Belle waving it around with manic triumph, boasting about how the universe had finally rewarded them, something inside me froze solid. I started down the stairs to say something, anything, but the moment I reached the bottom step, Belle turned and shot a glance at the old family photos hanging on the hallway wall. "There's no way we're staying in this dated place now that we're rich," she said, wrinkling her nose. "We deserve something modern, something that fits who we are." I almost laughed. "Who you are?" I thought. "You've never even earned your own rent." But I stayed silent. I went back up to the attic room they'd pushed me into years ago. The room that used to hold forgotten boxes and holiday decorations. The room they told me was better suited for someone who needs quiet. The house his father built barely contained a trace of me now. By noon, everything I owned fit in 2 old suitcases. Belle made sure of it. She tossed sweaters, photo frames, and even Alan's old watch out the upstairs window while neighbors gathered like spectators at a parade. When she slammed my closet door and smirked, "Hope you enjoy your new nursing home," something in me snapped, but not in anger, in clarity. Belle didn't realize how loudly she had already confessed her greed. She didn't realize the ticket she claimed as hers carried a signature that wasn't hers. She didn't realize that throwing me away only freed me to fight back. I walked past Ethan, past Belle, past the ruins of my belongings, and climbed into a waiting cab without looking back. They believed they'd won the battle, but I had proof they didn't even understand the war. My new living space sat above a tiny takeout restaurant whose fryer worked harder than the sun. The room was barely large enough for a narrow bed, a crooked table, and a single window painted shut by humidity. Still, it was cleaner than the life I'd just walked out of. When I opened my suitcase, the first thing I pulled out was Alan's wedding band, still resting in the small velvet box I'd kept safe for a decade. I set it gently on the table, next to the folded purchase receipt for the lottery ticket, the same receipt Belle had never bothered to look for. I thought leaving my own home would break me. Instead, the silence of that cramped room felt like my first breath after being underwater for too long. Outside, laughter drifted upward from the restaurant. Inside, I replayed the morning like a film. Belle's shrill bragging, the neighbors' whispers, Ethan's frozen helplessness as his wife threw my life out the window. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply awake to the truth I had ignored for years. Kindness without boundaries becomes an invitation for cruelty. When the phone rang the next morning, I almost didn't answer. But the caller ID read Georgia State Lottery Commission. A steady male voice greeted me. "Mrs. Wexler, this is Daniel Harriman, Verification Counsel for the State Lottery. We're contacting you regarding the winning ticket registered under your name." My breath hitched, not from surprise, but from the validation that finally arrived. "Yes," I said calmly. "I'm the one who purchased and signed it." There was a shuffle of papers. "We've also received claims from 2 individuals, your daughter-in-law and son, stating the ticket belongs to them." I let out a dry laugh before I could stop myself. They would claim the moon if they thought it would make them look wealthier. He didn't laugh, but I sensed he'd heard worse. "Yes, Wexler, we need to confirm your identity and the original purchase. Do you still have the receipt?" "I do," I answered. "Dated, timestamped, and signed." A pause. Then his voice warmed. "Then you have nothing to worry about. As long as the receipt and store footage match, the prize is legally yours." His confidence felt like a coat draped around my shoulders. But the most interesting part came next. "Before I let you go," he added carefully, "I want to inform you that the other party implied you might lack the mental competency to manage the funds." I closed my eyes slowly. Of course they did. When greedy people can't steal from you, they try to paint you as unfit. "Thank you for telling me," I said. "Let them file whatever nonsense they want. Truth ages better than lies." After I hung up, I sat on the edge of the bed with my hands clasped. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was about dignity. It was about history. It was about reclaiming the piece of myself that I'd let them erode year after year. And the moment I decided to stop swallowing their disrespect, everything in their world began to unravel. After the call from the lottery attorney, I spent nearly an hour sitting in that crooked little chair, staring at the peeling wall like it was a movie screen. Not because I was shocked. No, I'd seen this coming the moment Belle's eyes gleamed with that greedy shine. What stunned me was how calm I felt. Years of swallowing my voice had forged a spine I didn't realize had hardened. I reached for my old leather notebook, the one Alan bought decades ago. I opened to a blank page and wrote 3 words. Let them unravel. Later that afternoon, I reached out to the one person in my old neighborhood who never looked at me like I was a burden. My neighbor of 30 years, Margaret Doyle. Margaret was the type who saw through performance and nonsense. If Belle was a storm, Margaret was a stone wall. The moment she heard my voice, she practically barked into the phone. "Lorraine, where the hell are you? People are saying you ran off after giving the kids the winning ticket. Belle told the neighbors you needed time away to get your mind straight." I pressed my lips together. Same tactic as always. Weaponized pity, disguised cruelty. "I didn't go anywhere for my health," I said flatly. "I left because they threw me out." There was a silence sharp enough to cut glass. Then Margaret exhaled like a dragon ready for war. "Tell me what you need." "Eyes on the house," I said. "Note who goes in and out. I want to see how quickly they burn through money that isn't theirs." She laughed under her breath. "Oh, honey, they're already sprinting." By evening, she sent me photos. Belle posing in front of my old porch with roses the size of cabbages. Ethan looking forced and exhausted. A new luxury SUV parked in the driveway, still wearing the dealership sticker. More furniture deliveries. Flashy outfits. A smug caption under Belle's social media post. When blessings finally come to the deserving, they didn't realize they were leaving a digital trail of reckless spending on a prize they hadn't legally claimed. Good. Let the rope tighten. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a message from Ethan. Mom, call me. Things are complicated. The money hasn't hit yet. Belle is stressed. Don't believe what's online. I didn't respond, not with words, at least. Instead, I took the receipt from the drawer, slid it into a plastic sleeve, and tucked it into my purse. If they wanted to drag this into the light, I would stand there with the truth in my hand. They thought I was the weakest person in the room. They forgot time sharpens quiet people, not softens them. And when Ethan finally came face to face with the truth, he realized just how deep the damage ran. 2 days after I left the house, Ethan finally worked up the courage to call again. His voice was strained, tight around the edges, as if he'd been holding his breath since the moment I stepped into that cab. Mom, can we meet? Please. I could hear the panic he was trying to conceal. Not grief, not remorse. Fear. The fear of a man who just realized he'd built his future on a foundation of quicksand. Where? I asked. Hi, I'll come to you, he said. Tell me the address. I gave it to him and hung up. No comforting words. No motherly softness. That part of me had been bruised to a pulp long before the lottery came into the picture. I cleaned the small table in my rented room, set out 2 cups of tea, and opened the window to loosen the fryer smell. The sunlight caught the worn surface of my notebook, the one filled with years of expenses I covered while Belle acted like she was running a kingdom. By the time the clock hit 2 in the afternoon, footsteps echoed up the metal stairs. Slow, hesitant. I recognized the sound instantly. My son, dragging the weight of his choices behind him. He stepped into the room and looked around as if taking in the reality of where his mother now lived. A narrow bed, thin curtains, a single light bulb humming quietly. His voice cracked. Mom, I'm sorry. 4 words, but not nearly enough. I didn't soften. I didn't stand to hug him. I simply motioned to the chair. He obeyed. For a moment, he just stared at his hands. The same hands that once held mine when he was a boy afraid of thunderstorms. Then he whispered, Belle spent almost everything already. Deposits, furniture, a house tour appointment, even a trip to France. They told her the funds would release soon, so she just assumed. She assumed the money was hers. I finished. Ethan nodded slowly. I didn't know she was going to file anything against you, I swear. I only found out when I saw the emails this morning. I studied him. What exactly did she file, Ethan? He swallowed hard. That you're confused. And that you didn't mean to keep the ticket. That you couldn't possibly manage the money. I finished for him again. This time he nodded with shame so heavy it bent his shoulders. I leaned back, my voice level. Did you ask me once if the ticket was mine? Just once in all this chaos. His silence answered everything I needed to know. He hadn't lost his morals. He'd abandoned them because it was easier. And just when he tried to mend his mistakes, Belle arrived, ready to drag both of us deeper into her spiral. Ethan and I hadn't spoken more than a few sentences when sharp footsteps hammered up the metal stairs. Too fast, too hostile to belong to anyone but her. Belle did not. She shoved the door open so hard it smacked the wall. Her perfume arrived before her words, sickly sweet with an edge sharp enough to choke. Well, she sneered, glancing around the cramped room. Isn't this adorable? Fits your aesthetic perfectly. I didn't stand, didn't flinch. This room, I said, has one advantage your house never had. She folded her arms. Oh, and what's that? No lies echo here. That hit her harder than she expected. Her expression flickered, just for a heartbeat, before she snapped back. We're here to make this simple, she declared, tapping her expensive manicure on her phone. Sign a statement confirming the ticket belongs to Ethan and me, and we'll make sure you're taken care of. Ethan stiffened. Belle, that's not. She cut him off with a glare sharp enough to skin him. Peace. I'm handling this. I set my tea down slowly. Belle, the last time you handled something, my belongings ended up in the street. Her jaw tightened, but she pressed on. Look, you didn't mean to keep the ticket. You probably forgot you even bought it. We're trying to avoid drama before the bank verifies the payout. Ah, there it was. An entire house of cards shaking on one truth they couldn't erase. My signature was on the back, and they knew it. You're not hearing me, I said calmly. The ticket is mine. The receipt is mine. The footage is mine, and the state already confirmed it. That shut Ethan down into a stunned silence. Belle clung to delusion with both fists. She scoffed. You think anyone is going to believe you over us? They already think you ran away confused. You made it so easy. I raised a brow. You really are proud of lying, aren't you? It's not lying if it gets results, she hissed. Ethan looked between us, panic building. Belle, enough. She whirled on him. If you don't stand with me, you lose everything we've built. I almost laughed. Built? Ethan built nothing but excuses. And you built nothing but debts you can't afford. Her face blanched. You regret this, she spit. I swear I'll take full custody of the kids, the house, all of it. I will bleed you dry. I leaned forward, voice cold as stone. Then pray the court doesn't see what you did to me, because if you drag this fight out, the truth will drag you further. For the first time, she looked afraid, but fear didn't slow her down. Instead, it pushed her into a legal war she had absolutely no chance of winning. Belle didn't walk out of my room that day. She stormed out, her heels pounding each metal step like she was announcing war. And in her mind, that's exactly what she was doing. She didn't care that she had no legal claim. She didn't care that truth was stacked against her like a brick wall. Her ego was louder than reality, and she was ready to bulldoze herself straight into the ground. The next morning, my attorney, Mr. Harriman, called with a grim sort of amusement in his voice. MRS. Wexler, he said. I've just received a formal letter from Mrs. Belle Whitmore's legal counsel. Let me guess, I replied. More accusations of incompetence. Not just incompetence, he said. She's filing for emergency custody of your grandchildren and attempting to block the lottery release until she is deemed the responsible adult in the family. For a moment, I went completely still, not from fear, from disbelief at how far she was willing to drag innocent children into her fantasy of control. Harriman, I said, you may proceed exactly as needed. I'm done giving her space to destroy people. Within hours, he filed the necessary responses. Clean, professional, devastating. And then things got worse for Belle. Margaret sent more updates. Furniture returns. Movers showing up confused. Neighbors gossiping. Belle pacing the driveway like a cat cornered by its own shadow. By the fourth day, Ethan called again, voice hollow. Mom, she's unraveling. She's blaming everyone. The kids are scared. She won't stop posting online about being betrayed and robbed. Were you robbed? I asked quietly. The silence that followed was the first honest answer he'd given me in years. No, he whispered. We tried to rob you. At least he said it out loud. While all this chaos brewed, the Lottery Commission sent the final verification notice. Footage matched. Timestamp matched. My signature matched. Everything was airtight. Belle had no path left except one. Attack me publicly. That evening, she went live on social media, dressed in white like some innocent victim, glassy-eyed, voice trembling with rehearsed fragility. My mother-in-law, she began, is being manipulated. She's not herself. People are taking advantage of her age to twist things, not a shred of shame. The rope she'd been pulling was starting to tighten around her own neck, and the next day, the courts finally stepped in, because when the hearing began, the truth didn't whisper, it detonated, and Belle never saw the blast coming. 2 weeks later, the courthouse smelled faintly of disinfectant and old paper, sterile, impartial, and forgiving. A perfect place for truth to live. Judge Marion Ellery presided, a sharp-eyed woman with silver streaks in her hair and a voice that could slice through excuses like a blade through paper. The kind of judge Belle should have been terrified of. But Belle strutted in wearing a spotless beige suit, chin lifted high, every inch of her screaming, I can talk my way out of anything. She held Ethan's hand like it was a stage prop, though his shoulders sagged so heavily he might as well have been carrying luggage. I sat quietly beside my attorney. No theatrics, no tears, just a folder of facts. The judge opened with the custody petition Belle filed. MRS. Whitmore, she said, adjusting her glasses. You claim your mother-in-law is mentally unfit, and is manipulating her son. On what evidence? Belle flashed a trembling gasp. Practice. Hollow. Well, Your Honor. She forgets things. She gets confused. She left the home suddenly. Harriman stood. Permission to present Exhibit A. A video appeared on the courtroom screen. Footage from Margaret's porch camera. Belle throwing my belongings into the street while screaming, "Go rot in a retirement home." The room went dead silent. Belle's face drained of color. Ethan shut his eyes. Judge Ellery leaned back. "Miss Whitmore, this doesn't look like a fragile elder being abusive. This looks like you abusing an elder." Belle stammered. That was taken out of context. "Really?" The judge said, brow arched. "Please explain the context in which telling someone to go rot in a retirement home is appropriate." Belle's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Next came witness testimony. Margaret spoke first, calm and crisp, describing years of verbal jabs, financial freeloading, and the morning Belle hurled my things out the window. Then the corner store manager confirmed the ticket purchase and my signature. Then the lottery commission signed verification. Then Ethan himself. He stood like a man confessing to a priest, voice cracking as he admitted, "I didn't protect my mother. I let Belle treat her horribly. The ticket is hers. She paid everything for 7 years. And she didn't deserve any of this." Belle whipped toward him. "You traitor." "Enough," Judge Ellery snapped. "One more outburst, Mrs. Whitmore, and I hold you in contempt." In the end, the judge issued her ruling. Custody to Ethan. Supervised visitation for Belle. Mandatory behavioral therapy. Defamation claim against me dismissed completely. Lottery ticket legally confirmed as mine. Belle formally reprimanded for psychological abuse of an elder. Belle sat frozen, mascara smearing, choking on a reality she couldn't manipulate. Truth had finally cornered her. But the real ending wasn't written in a courtroom. It happened when I finally rebuilt the life they tried to bury. June arrived carrying warm breezes and the smell of salt drifting in from the bay. That morning, I unlocked the door of my new little house, my house, and stepped inside as if entering a life that had been waiting behind a closed curtain for years. Soft cream walls, a small kitchen with sunlight filtering through the window, lavender pots lining the sill. Nothing extravagant, but it felt like breathing again. I unpacked slowly, placing each memory where it belonged. Alan's photo above the mantel, my wedding band resting in a ceramic dish, a framed picture of the grandkids, back when their smiles came easy. Later that week, Mason called, not as a man begging forgiveness, but as a father trying to do better. "Mom, can I bring the kids over this weekend?" "Yes," I said, "and bring the chowder recipe your father loved. We'll make it together." Saturday came with warm sun and a shy breeze. Mason pulled into the driveway, and before he even cut the engine, Lucy and Jacob burst out of the back seat, running toward me with laughter that filled the entire yard. Their joy washed away months of tension and bitterness. Inside the kitchen, Mason tried to follow Alan's method. No measuring cups, just instinct. He chopped onions clumsily, splattered broth everywhere, apologized too many times. It didn't matter. For the first time in years, he wasn't shrinking, hiding, or excusing. He was trying. After dinner, I called Lucy to the porch. She skipped out with sticky hands and ice cream on her chin. I opened a small shed behind the house and wheeled out a turquoise bicycle, new, polished, with silver streamers dancing in the wind. Her breath caught. "Grandma, is that really for me?" "Yes," I said, "but you have to promise me something." "What promise?" "Never let anyone convince you that you don't deserve kindness." She nodded hard, eyes bright, then rode circles around the yard until her laughter blended with the sound of the waves. Inside, Jacob built tiny Lego houses on the coffee table, proud of each one. Mason cleaned the dishes without me asking. There was no tension, no shouting, no footsteps filled with dread, just family, quiet, imperfect, healing. Over the next few months, Mason kept every commitment: parenting counseling, financial responsibility, building a stable home for the kids, distance from Belle's chaos. I didn't smother him with money or guilt. I set boundaries. I helped only where purpose and accountability were clear. Meanwhile, I started a community program, Harbor Hands, helping older adults pushed out of their homes or exploited by relatives. It felt right. It felt necessary. Pain turned into purpose. One evening, I sat on the porch with a cup of mint tea. The sea wind rustled the climbing roses I planted, deep red, Alan's favorite. I placed a fresh bloom beside his photo. "We made it," I whispered. Truth made it home, and for the first time in 7 years, peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt earned.